A week after the funeral, the night watchman's call shattered the silence at 3 a.m. "Mrs. Miller, I'm so sorry, but this is serious." Stephen's voice trembled on the other end. "I think it's your son. Please come quickly." I can't say this over the phone. When I arrived at the back warehouse, a chill ran straight through me because of what awaited me there. The phone had rung in the dead of night. 3 a.m., that cursed hour when nothing good ever happens. I was still sleeping on the left side of the bed. The right side remained empty. It had been 7 days since that space had been without Arthur's warm body. 7 days since we laid him to rest in Oakwood Cemetery, beneath the willow tree he'd cherished so much. Stephen's voice sounded different, strained, almost frightened. He was the night watchman of our fabric warehouse, the same man Arthur had hired 15 years ago. I'd never heard him like this before, so nervous, almost scared. "Mrs. Grace Miller, forgive me for waking you at this ungodly hour." "What's wrong, Stephen? Was there a robbery?" "It's worse than that, ma'am. Much worse. I need you to come now. Please, I can't tell you this over the phone." My heart raced. I dressed as quickly as I could, a sweater thrown over my nightgown, shoes without socks. My hands trembled as I searched for the car keys. The house was silent. Robert and Vanessa were supposedly sleeping in the guest room, or at least that's what I thought. The drive to the warehouse felt eternal. The streets of our suburban town were deserted, except for a few stray dogs and a drunk man leaning against a lamppost. The November cold penetrated my bones. When I arrived, Stephen was waiting at the back door. His face was ghostly pale under the yellow glow of the street lamp. "Mrs. Miller, what I'm about to show you, you have to see it with your own eyes." He led me down the hallway to the main warehouse. That place carried the scent of my entire life. Imported fabrics, cedar from the old shelves, the years of sweat and effort that Arthur and I had poured into this place. 40 years of building this business from nothing. But that morning, something was terribly, terribly wrong. The shelves were half empty. "Where's the merchandise?" I whispered, feeling the floor shift beneath my feet. Stephen turned on the screen in the small office. He showed me security footage from the past 2 weeks. And there he was, my son Robert, entering at 11 at night with 3 men I didn't recognize, loading full rolls of Italian silk. The French lace that Arthur had personally brought from New York, the hand-embroidered fabrics worth more than $5,000 per roll. "He's been doing this for 14 days, Mrs. Miller. 3 times a week, always when you're asleep." The image was crystal clear. My son coordinating, directing, selling his father's legacy as if it were garbage. Stephen pulled out a folder. Fake invoices, doctor receipts, contacts with black market resellers downtown. "He's already sold merchandise worth $25,000, Mrs. Miller. And there's more." He showed me documents he'd found on Robert's desk. Appointment schedule with 3 different real estate agencies. Appraisals of the entire building. Blueprints marked with divisions for selling by lots. But the worst was on the last page. A power of attorney in my name with my signature. A signature I had never written. "He tried to forge your signature, ma'am, to gain legal control of everything." My legs gave out. I collapsed into the old chair where Arthur used to check inventory, the one he'd upholstered himself with scraps of green velvet. My son, my only son, the boy I'd carried for 9 months, nursed at my breast, the one Arthur and I had worked 12-hour days to give a better life than ours. That same son was dismantling piece by piece everything his father had built, and it had barely been 7 days since the funeral. 7 days since I'd watched him cry beside the coffin. 7 days since he'd sworn at Arthur's grave that he would take care of me. "There's something else, Mrs. Miller." Stephen pulled out his phone. He showed me screenshots of WhatsApp conversations. I didn't ask how he'd obtained them. He just placed them before me. Messages between Robert and Vanessa. "Almost there, baby. 2 more weeks, and we'll have everything liquidated. And your mom, leave her to me. I already have a psychologist ready. We declare her senile, and that's it, with guardianship in our hands. We sell everything and head to Cabo like we planned. And if she realizes..." She won't realize. She's old and depressed. She doesn't even check the papers I put in front of her to sign. Every word was a knife to my heart. I closed my eyes, breathed deeply. The smell of coffee that Arthur used to prepare every morning in that office still lingered like a ghost. "What do you want me to do, ma'am?" Stephen asked, his voice breaking. "I can call the police right now." I looked at him, this loyal man who had worked 3 full shifts when we were starting out, who had cried genuinely at Arthur's funeral, who was showing me this betrayal even though it pained him. "No, Stephen, not yet, ma'am." I stood up. Something inside me had shattered, but something else had ignited. A spark of rage, of indignation, of a strength I didn't know I still possessed. "I need you to make copies of all these videos, all the documents, every message." "Are you going to confront him?" I smiled. It was a bitter smile, but a smile nonetheless. "I'm going to do something better. I'm going to let him keep believing that I'm a stupid old woman who notices nothing." As I drove back home, as the sun began to break over the horizon with orange hues over the hills, I understood something Arthur always told me. "Grace, the one who thinks he's very clever ends up being the biggest fool." And my son was about to learn that lesson the hard way. Let me take you back a week, to the day that split my world in two. Arthur died on a Tuesday at 6 o'clock in the morning, in our bed, holding my hand. His heart simply grew tired of beating. 72 years of life, 45 by my side. The wake was held at St. Ann's funeral home, the one with stained glass windows that smells of white flowers and contains sadness. More than 200 people came, old clients, suppliers, neighbors, workers from the warehouse. Everyone except my son arrived with their hearts in their hands. I sat in the front row, wearing the black dress Arthur had given me for our 40th anniversary. My hands clasped on my lap, my eyes dry because I had no tears left. Robert arrived late, 2 hours late, with Vanessa hanging from his arm, as if she were a Persian rug he needed to display. She wore a fitted black dress, red heels, red at funeral, and dark sunglasses she never removed. Her platinum blonde hair was tied in a perfect bun, her nails impeccable, her makeup intact. She didn't shed a single tear. But I noticed something else. While people approached to give me their condolences, while Mrs. Higgins hugged me crying, because Arthur had given her credit for fabrics for years when she couldn't pay, while Mr. Thomas squeezed my shoulder, without words, because we'd been partners for 20 years, Vanessa walked around the room with her phone out, taking photographs. At first, I thought she was documenting the funeral. Something normal, I suppose. Young people photograph everything now. But no, she wasn't photographing the people. She was photographing the colonial paintings hanging on our walls, because the viewing was at home, as tradition dictates, the antique mirror with the mahogany frame that Arthur had inherited from his grandmother, the fine china in the cabinet, the silver locket with photos of my parents. Zoom, click, zoom, click, as if she were making an inventory. I saw her bend down next to the small table where I'd placed the jewelry I'd removed to be more comfortable. My gold rosary, the pearl earrings, the engagement ring Arthur had designed especially for me. Her fingers brushed the ring. "Vanessa, do you need something?" I asked for my chair. She jumped like a startled cat. "Oh, Mom." "No, I was just admiring how beautiful it is." Arthur had very good taste. Mom, that word she wielded like a knife wrapped in honey. Robert didn't even approach me during the first hour. He stood in the corner glued to his phone, typing furiously. When he finally came over, he gave me a quick, mechanical hug. "I'm sorry, Mom. The traffic was terrible." He smelled like beer. At 11 in the morning, at his father's funeral, my son smelled like beer. "Are you okay, son?" I whispered. Yes. It's very hard, you know. I needed something to calm my nerves." Liar. Arthur had been sick for 6 months. 6 months of chemotherapy, of doctors, of nights in the hospital. Robert had visited him 3 times. 3 times in 6 months, and each visit lasted less than 20 minutes. He always had something urgent to attend to. During the prayer service, when Father Gonzalez began to pray, I noticed Robert and Vanessa exchanging looks. She showed him something on her phone. He nodded. They smiled. At the funeral, Mrs. Higgins, who was sitting next to me, also saw it. "Grace, honey," she whispered in my ear. "I don't want to meddle, but those two, something doesn't feel right. They're just nervous, Mrs. Higgins. It's their way of dealing with the pain." How naive I was. How blind. After the burial, when we returned home, Vanessa offered to help me organize everything. "Mom, you rest. I'll take care of cleaning up." And she did. She picked up the flowers, the plates, the coffee cups. She also picked up the jewelry box that sat on my dresser. She opened it. She examined each piece. She photographed every single one. I saw her from the reflection in the hallway mirror. "Are you looking for something, Vanessa?" No, Mom. I just wanted to keep everything in a safe place. With so many people coming in and out, you never know." She closed the jewelry box and handed it to me with a perfect smile. But I had counted the pieces that morning. Something was missing. A small brooch of white gold with 3 diamonds. Nothing flashy, but it held enormous sentimental value. Arthur had given it to me when Robert was born. I said nothing. Not yet. That night, when everyone had left and the house remained in sepulchral silence, Robert knocked on my bedroom door. "Mom, I need to talk to you." He came in and sat on the edge of the bed, not on Arthur's side, but on mine, invading my space. "Look, I know this is difficult. It's difficult for me, too. Liar. But we have to be practical. Dad is gone. And you can't stay alone in this huge house. Not at your age. 67 years old. That was my age, not 90. Vanessa and I have been talking. We think it's best if you come live with us. Or better yet, we move in here with you. Temporarily, of course. To take care of you. I don't need to be taken care of, Robert." "Mom, please don't be stubborn. Besides, someone has to take care of the business now that Dad isn't here." There it was. The business. I'm going to take care of the business, as I always have. Robert let out a short, dry laugh. "Mom, with all due respect, you don't know anything about modern finances. The business needs to be renewed, digitalized. I studied administration, remember?" He'd studied for 2 years. He'd never gotten his degree, but he had a diploma from the most expensive private university in the city, paid with our sweat. "Give me a few days, son. Let me process all this." "Of course, Mom. Of course." He stood up and kissed me on the forehead, cold, calculated, like kissing a statue. Before leaving, he turned around. "Oh, by the way, Dad left everything in order, right? The will, the business papers, the deeds?" "Yes, Robert. Everything is in order." "Perfect. Because I'll need you to give me access to the bank accounts so I can start reviewing funeral expenses and such. We'll see about that later." His jaw tensed. Only for a second, but I saw it. "As you say, Mom, rest." He closed the door. I remained there, sitting on that bed that smelled of sickness and goodbyes. I hugged Arthur's pillow. It still held the shape of his head. And I cried. I cried because I'd lost the love of my life. But above all, I cried because deep down, in that dark place I didn't want to acknowledge, I knew my son hadn't come to say goodbye to his father. He'd come to claim his inheritance. And I, like a fool, still wanted to believe I was wrong. But the worst hadn't happened yet. I need you to understand something. To understand what came next, you need to know who we were, Arthur and I, what we built, and why it hurt so much to see it collapsing. I met Arthur in 1976. I was 19 years old. He was 26. It was at the downtown textile district on a Saturday morning. I was accompanying my mother to buy fabric to make a dress for my younger sister. Arthur had a tiny stall, barely 10 square feet, full of scraps and rolls piled to the ceiling. It wasn't love at first sight. It was something better. It was recognition. He looked me in the eyes when he helped me. Not at my neckline, not at my legs. At my eyes. He asked me what I was looking for. He truly listened, and he showed me 5 different options, explaining the advantages of each fabric. This one is cooler for the heat. This one has a better drape. This one here is more resistant to washing. He knew what he was talking about. Not like those salesmen who throw anything at you just to make a sale. Arthur loved fabrics. He knew every fiber, every weave, every origin. He spoke of them as if they were living beings. I returned the next Saturday, and the next, and the next, until one day, after buying half a yard of linen I didn't even need, he dared to ask, "Would you like to have coffee with me when I close the stall?" We married 8 months later. The wedding was simple. At the neighborhood church with 20 guests, sweet bread and hot cocoa. We didn't have money for more, but we had something better. We had a dream. Arthur wanted to stop being a street vendor. He wanted his own shop. He wanted to import quality fabrics, not just sell what arrived from national factories. And I wanted to build something with my own hands. The first years were war. We lived in a rooftop room we rented for $50 a month. We shared a bathroom with 3 other families. We cooked on a hot plate. We bathed with cold water because there wasn't enough of the heater. But we worked. God, how we worked. Arthur left at 5 in the morning for the market. I stayed behind, cutting, measuring, packing orders until 11 at night. On weekends, we went together to knock on doors of workshops, seamstresses, small designers. We saved every dollar. Every single dollar. We didn't go to the movies. We didn't buy sodas. Our clothes were secondhand. I baked bread myself because it was cheaper. In 1979, after 3 years, we gathered enough to rent a small shop in the industrial district. 200 square feet, peeling walls, a bare bulb hanging from the ceiling. But it was ours. We named it Miller Textiles. Arthur insisted it carry my surname too, not just his. But we settled on Miller because, as he said, without me, without my hands, without my head for numbers, none of this would exist. We're a team, Grace, half and half. And that's how it always was. Robert was born in 1983, a beautiful boy with big eyes and an easy laugh. We adored him. He was our prince, our reason to keep going. Maybe that was our mistake, giving him everything we didn't have. Arthur didn't want Robert to grow up with shortages, so we bought him the best shoes, even if we kept wearing our old ones. We gave him money for school, even if we had to skip meals. Let him study, Grace. Let him not have to work like a mule like us. And he studied. Private school, expensive university, English courses, his own computer when they were just starting to become popular. But we never taught him the value of effort. We never made him work in the business. Let him have fun, Grace. He'll have time to suffer when he's an adult. How wrong we were. By 1995, we had 3 stores, one in the suburbs, one downtown, one in the fashion district. We imported fabrics from Italy, France, Japan. We had contracts with recognized designers, with fashion houses, with movie studios. Miller Textiles was a respected name. We bought the house in 2001, a 2-story house in the suburbs with a garden and a fountain, 3 bedrooms, a study, a terrace. It cost $250,000. We paid it off in 5 years without loans, without debts, all in cash, with the sweat of 40-hour weeks that turned into 60, into 70. Robert was 18 when we moved. He was already in college, studying business administration. Arthur was so proud. He's going to modernize the business, Grace. He's going to take it to the next level. But Robert never showed real interest. He came to the warehouse once a month, out of obligation. He stayed for an hour, checked his phone every 5 minutes, left with any excuse. I have an exam, Dad. I'm meeting friends for a project. I have a headache. Arthur always justified him. Leave him alone, Grace. He's young. He'll mature. But he didn't mature. He graduated at 24. Didn't practice a single day of what he'd studied. He got a job at an advertising agency that went bankrupt in 6 months. Then at a startup that never took off. Then at a gym as a manager, from which he was fired for constantly arriving late. He always had excuses. He always needed a small loan to get out of trouble. $500 here, $1,000 there, $2,000 for a sure investment that never bore fruit. Arthur gave him the money. Always. He's our son, Grace. We can't leave him on the street. I started to set limits, to say no, to demand that he work in the business if he wanted money. Robert stopped talking to me for months. He called me greedy. He said I want to control him, that I wouldn't let him be free. Arthur positioned himself in the middle, trying to mediate, until he met Vanessa. That was 5 years ago. She supposedly worked organizing corporate events. We never saw real evidence of her work, but she always wore expensive clothes, designer bags, perfect nails. Robert was mesmerized. She's the woman of my life, Mom. I'm going to make her happy. They married 3 months after meeting, an ostentatious wedding they couldn't afford. Arthur and I contributed $15,000. Vanessa contributed the demands. A hall at the country club, dinner with lobster, premium open bar, honeymoon in Cabo. I tried to talk to Robert. Son, this is a lot of money. Wouldn't you prefer something more intimate and save for your future? Vanessa heard me. Oh, Mom, it's just that you come from another generation. Nowadays, weddings are a social investment. Networking, you know? At a wedding. I should have seen it then. I should have seen how she looked at me as if I were an obstacle, an old-fashioned woman who didn't understand the modern world. Arthur, my noble and good Arthur, wanted to believe the best of everyone. Give her time, Grace. She's nervous about the wedding. You'll see she'll calm down. But she didn't calm down. She got worse. And now, sitting in that warehouse at 3 a.m., watching the videos of my son stealing his father's legacy, I understood something terrible. Robert never wanted the business. He never wanted to honor our memory. He only wanted the money. And Vanessa only wanted Robert for what she could extract from him. 2 parasites disguised as family. And the worst of all, Arthur had died without knowing the truth. 2 days after the funeral, Robert knocked on my door with 3 suitcases. Mom, we already talked about this. Vanessa and I are staying with you for a while. We hadn't talked about anything. He had imposed it. I, in my pain, in my exhaustion, in that thick fog that envelopes you when you lose your life partner, simply didn't have the strength to fight. It's temporary, right? I asked, watching Vanessa enter behind him with 2 more suitcases and 4 boxes. Of course, Mom, just until you feel better. You can't be alone in this big house. The house had 3 bedrooms. They took the one that had been Robert's when he was a child, the one Arthur had converted into a study after he left, the mahogany desk where Arthur designed his fabric catalogs, the swivel chair he loved so much, the bookcases full of samples from around the world, everything shoved into a corner, covered with a sheet as if it were trash. We needed space for our things, Mom, said Vanessa with that smile that never reached her eyes. I hope you don't mind. I did mind, but I said nothing. Not yet. The first change was subtle. Vanessa reorganized the kitchen. Mom, sorry to tell you, but you have everything very disorganized. Look, the plates go better here, the pot's there. It's more functional, see? I had organized that kitchen for 20 years. I knew exactly where everything was. I could cook with my eyes closed. Now I couldn't even find the spoons. Oh, Mom, you're getting forgetful. The spoons have always been in that drawer. Liar. They had never been there. But she said it with such confidence that she made me doubt myself. Then came the friends. Vanessa invited them on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. 5 or 6 loud women who took over the living room. They shouted, laughed, smoked in the garden even though I'd asked them not to. It's my house too while I live here, Mom. I have the right to invite my friends. That word, right, as if living under my roof gave her automatic rights over my space, my peace, my life. One afternoon, I went downstairs for a glass of water. It was 4 o'clock. I heard them talking in the living room. And when do you guys get out of here? Asked one of them, the one with black hair and a tattoo on her shoulder. As soon as possible, replied Vanessa. This house is pretty, but it's very old. It smells like old people, you know? Needs a complete renovation. Laughter. And what does the mother-in-law say? The mother-in-law is in the clouds. Poor thing. She's already very old. The other day I had her sign some grocery papers, and she didn't even read them. She just signed. I think she's going senile. More laughter. I froze in the hallway. the empty glass in my hand, grocery papers. I'd never signed anything about groceries. I returned to my room, locked the door, sat on the bed, breathing slowly, trying to control the rage that rose up my throat like bile. That night, Robert entered the kitchen while I was preparing chicken stew, the kind Arthur liked, with finely chopped vegetables. "Mom, we need to talk about the business." "What about the business?" "Well, it needs proper administration. I checked the accounting books, and they're outdated. You keep everything by hand. We need to digitize it, modernize it. I can take care of that." I put the spoon down on the table. "Robert, I've kept those books for 30 years. There's never been an error." "But, Mom, that's not how things are done anymore. We need a system, a digital platform, social media. I can take care of that." "Have you worked in the business?" His face hardened. "I studied administration, Mom. I know what I'm talking about." "You studied? You didn't get your degree. That's a low blow." "It's the truth." He jumped up from the chair abruptly, though it scraped against the floor with a horrible sound. "You know what, Mom? It's always been like this. You never trust me. You never think I could do anything right. Dad was right when he said you were too controlling. That lie. Arthur had never said that. Never. Your father and I were equal partners, Robert. He respected my work." Sure. Whatever you say." He left the kitchen, slamming the door. The stew burned. I didn't even taste it. The next day, I found Vanessa in my room. She was standing in front of my dresser. The wooden jewelry box Arthur had given me on our 30th anniversary was open. "What are you doing?" She jumped, closed the jewelry box quickly. "Oh, Mom, you scared me." "I was passing by and saw the door open. I was admiring your jewelry. They're beautiful. Oh, but beautiful." "The door wasn't open. I locked it. How did you get in?" "Mom, the door was open, I'm telling you." Lying shamelessly. "Vanessa, this is my private room. I need you to respect my space." She let out a little giggle, as if I'd said something funny. "Oh, Mom, don't get paranoid. I was just looking. I'm not going to steal anything." She walked past me, brushing my shoulder too hard. Intentionally. "You should lock it if you're so suspicious," she said before leaving. I checked the jewelry box. The emerald earrings Arthur had given me when Robert was born were missing. They were worth $3,000. I went downstairs to confront her. She was in the living room, painting her nails blood red. "Vanessa, my emerald earrings. Did you see them?" "What earrings?" "The ones that were in my jewelry box." "Oh, Mom, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't touch anything. You were examining the jewelry box 10 minutes ago." "I was just looking. I already told you. Besides, are you sure you had them there? Maybe you put them somewhere else and don't remember." Robert appeared from the kitchen. "What's happening?" "Your mom says she's missing some earrings. She's accusing me of stealing them." "I didn't say that. I clarified," feeling my voice tremble. "But she's insinuating it," said Vanessa, acting offended. "Robert, tell your mom I'm no thief." Robert looked at me, his mother, as if I were the problem. "Mom, you're being paranoid. Vanessa wouldn't steal anything from you. You probably put the earring somewhere else and don't remember." "Robert, I know perfectly well where." "Enough, Mom." He exploded. "Enough. Since Dad died, you've been unbearable. Everything bothers you. Everything seems wrong to you. We're here to help you, and you only make our lives impossible." I felt as if I had been slapped. "I didn't ask you to come." "Of course you did. You're alone. You're vulnerable. You're sad. You need company. What I need is peace." Vanessa let out a dry laugh. "Peace? Mom, you don't even know what you need. That's why we're here, to take care of you, to take care of me." As if I were an invalid. As if I were a senile old woman, incapable of fending for herself. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay staring at the ceiling, listening to the laughter coming from the room next door. Robert and Vanessa celebrating something, drinking low music. I got up at 2 a.m., went to the kitchen for water. I found the trash can open, and there, among orange peels and bread bags, was a family photo album, the one Arthur and I had put together over 40 years. Our wedding, Robert's birth, his first steps, Christmases, birthdays, trips, our entire life together, in the trash. I pulled out the album. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped it. Some photos were crumpled, others torn. On the first page, in Vanessa's handwriting, was a sticky note. "This is useless. Takes up too much space." I hugged the album against my chest. And there, in the darkness of my own kitchen, in the house Arthur and I had bought with decades of sweat, I cried in silence. So they wouldn't hear me, so they wouldn't call me dramatic, so they wouldn't tell me once again that I was exaggerating. But something inside me that night stopped hurting and started burning. Now you understand why that call from Stephen at 3 o'clock in the morning didn't surprise me as much as it should have. I already knew something was wrong. I just didn't know how deep the betrayal ran. Standing in that warehouse, seeing the empty shelves, the security videos, the forged documents, everything made sense. Robert's nightly outings to the gym, the whispered phone calls he cut short when I entered the room, Vanessa's insistence that I sign unimportant papers. Everything was part of the plan. "Ma'am, there's more," said Stephen, pulling me from my thoughts. He showed me a manila folder hidden behind the filing cabinet. Inside were invoices, many invoices, sales made in the last 2 weeks. 12 rolls of Italian silk at $400 each, sold for $150. Loss, $3,000. 25 yards of vintage French lace at $600 a yard, sold for $200. Loss, $10,000. 8 rolls of hand-embroidered Egyptian linen. Unique pieces Arthur had personally brought from Cairo 10 years ago, sold for $2,000 when they were worth $10,000. The list went on and on. How much in total? I asked, though I didn't want to know the answer. Stephen checked his notes. $30,000 in merchandise sold below cost. And that's only what I managed to document. There could be more. The room spun. I grabbed Arthur's desk to keep from falling. That desk where he'd spent hours calculating fair prices, correct margins, where he'd caressed fabrics as if they were treasures, because they were. Every piece in that warehouse had a story, a journey, a trusted supplier, years of built relationships. And Robert was giving it away as if it were flea market trash. Here's the worst part, ma'am. Stephen spread 3 documents on the desk. Real estate appraisals. The entire building, warehouse, offices, the ground floor shop, appraised at $1 million. The 3 quotes were from last week. One had a handwritten note from Robert. "Urgent quick sale. Will accept $800,000 cash." He was willing to sell the building for more than $200,000, less than its value. Why such a rush? "There's more, ma'am. Forgive me, but I checked his desk. I found this." He handed me a crumpled envelope hidden in the bottom drawer. Inside were 3 credit cards in Vanessa Miller's name. The attached statements showed debts totaling $40,000. Purchases at department stores, expensive restaurants, trips, designer bags, shoes, spa treatments, beauty salons. A life of luxury paid with money they didn't have. I kept examining. I found receipts from a sports betting platform in Robert Miller's name. Accumulated losses. $20,000 in 6 months. My son was a gambler. My daughter-in-law, a compulsive spender. And together, they'd accumulated more than $60,000 in debts. That was why they needed the money. It wasn't pure ambition. It was desperation. "Ma'am." Stephen's voice brought me out of the shock. "I also found this." He showed me his phone. Screenshot of a WhatsApp group called Project Freedom Cabo/Vallarta. The messages were between Robert and Vanessa. I read in silence, feeling how every word was a dagger. Robert: "I already sold another $4,000 in fabrics. We're doing well." Vanessa: "And your mom still suspects nothing?" Robert: "Not all. She's been gone since my dad died. She doesn't even check the warehouse." Vanessa: "Perfect. Did you contact a notary?" Robert: "Yes. He's charging me $2,000 to make the fake power of attorney papers. He says in 2 weeks it'll be ready." Vanessa: It's worth every penny. Once we have legal control, we sell everything and leave. Robert, are you sure you want Cabo? I prefer Vallarta. Vanessa, I don't care, love. The important thing is to get out of this horrible city and away from your dramatic mom. Robert, I know. She's always been like this, controlling and bitter. Vanessa, do you think she'll make a problem when we tell her we're putting her in the nursing home? Robert, leave her to me. I already have a psychologist lined up. He's going to evaluate her, declare her senile, and that's it. Total legal guardianship for us. Vanessa, you're a genius, my love. Robert, I know. My dad was always too soft with her. That's why we never grew as a company.